Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio. Today I have another watercolor workout art journal page for you. Watercolor workout is an event going on, just kind of a theme for the month and also for February, where we use water-soluble media and post our photos over in the Art Joy of Sharing Facebook group. If you haven't joined that group yet, it is an art community where we share and support each other, and we have themes, participating artists, and the group is run by Peg Robinson and myself. We also sometimes have video hops. We just have a lot of different things over there. Mood board challenges, and sometimes even we'll throw in the pick a stick challenges, just different things. And the Facebook group is just there to offer inspiration, education, and support for your art that you would like to do. So this page is a sketch in my new Arteza watercolor journal. I'm trying to do just watercolor in this one. This journal would also be great for mixed media. It's 8 by 5 inches approximately. It has 110-pound cold press watercolor paper in it. And it's 76 pages, has a plastic pocket in the back for storing ephemera if you're going to take it on the road with you to do some collage work. And you get a pack of 2 together. And yeah, it's a great little book, so I recommend it if you're planning on starting a new watercolor journal, or even if you want to do a collage or mixed media journal. The water-soluble media or watercolor that I'm using today is a combination of powdered pigments. I have 2 different brands. I have the Ken Oliver brand. These are called Ken Oliver Colorbursts, and I have a set of those. They're powdered pigment in a little kind of squeezy bottle. And then I have another set of 12 of a powdered pigment or a crystal pigment called Brusho. And I will put the links to the book, the links to all these different powdered pigments in the description box below the video so that you can find them. And that is what I'm using to do all the watercoloring. The sketch was done in a graphite pencil and then erased back a little bit so that it's super light. But ultimately, I like the lines. So the lines will come back. The lines will always come back. I like an illustrative look on everything, apparently, even in watercolor. I guess it's just my style. So the first thing I did was to use the sepia from the Ken Oliver Colorburst and the black from the Brusho. Put them in this little plastic palette and then just mix them. I did wet on wet on the little center of the sunflower, and I just kind of dropped them in there and let them do their thing. And then I sprinkled a little bit of the, I think it was the sepia one, or maybe I just used yellow. I can't remember. Anyway, I sprinkled something over the top of it to give those little blotches of color in the middle while it was still slightly wet. And I did that on the leaves too. I haven't done it quite yet. But then I picked all the different green colors from my 2 different sets of powder pigments. I have a leaf green and an emerald green from the Brusho. And then there was I think it's a phthalo green, which would be like a blue green, almost a turquoise. And the other one was called verdigris or something like that from the Ken Oliver. And I put those in the plastic palette, picked them up with a little bit of water on my brush. The brush I'm using is a number 8 round long from Princeton brushes. That's a synthetic bristle. I believe it's golden Taklon or something like that. Has a very long tip, but it holds a lot of water up in the side of the brush at the top. So it's a very nice brush, and I'm enjoying it for this project. Link that too in the description box below so you can find it. All my links are to Amazon today, which is my Amazon affiliate program, and I get a few cents if you use my links. So That's always helpful. So the thing about these powdered pigments is that they're just messy. And you can see there as I was starting to put some water into my petals at the top there near where I had sprinkled the powdered pigment directly onto the center of the sunflower, that there was a little bit of overlap. And as I started to get the water on there, you could see that there was a little bit of that I think it was the sepia, which didn't bother me that much, but I couldn't even visually see it on the paper, and yet when I put some water on there, it showed up. So this stuff, you need to cover your surface. You need to not shake it very hard because it just splatters everywhere. It is some sort of watercolor like you would have maybe in a binder, like a normal watercolor, but it's just the loose pigment, and it has a mind of its own. But that being said, it's extremely bright, extremely vibrant, and it has its own way of reacting. Like if water gets on it after the fact, it will still bloom after, and in a strange way. It makes strong lines around the edge. Almost reminds me of the look of when you drop alcohol ink onto a non-porous paper. It will bloom out, and then as it gets towards the edges of its blooming, it gets really dark. So you get like this dark halo around things. And the Brusho will kind of do that too if you drop it, if you drop water onto it after you've already painted it on. A fun thing to do with this product is to just let it sprinkle over the paper and then spray it with water and see what happens. I think that's probably the nature of what you're really kind of supposed to do with it. But it's also fun to do it this way by just mixing it with water and turning it into essentially a watercolor. So for the yellow petals, I got the lemon and the yellow from Brusho and the orange from Brusho. And then I also got the orange, and I'm not sure what the other Ken Oliver one, it might be called lemon also. I got those out. So I have 5 different little petals here. I know that part of my palette is cut off. I didn't really realize that. I have my camera zoomed in so that you would be close. But I'm just using a few crystals or a few little bits of powder. It doesn't take a lot. This stuff will last forever. I will probably never need to order another little container of any of this powder because I don't imagine I'll ever use it up. It's so intensely pigmented because it's just pigment. That's just what it is. So I also ended up getting out some more brown, which is a Brusho color. It's a little bit different. Or maybe I did get the sepia. I don't know. There's a brown in Brusho and there's a sepia in the Ken Oliver. Now the thing about watercolor is it requires time. Like you really should just wait. Just wait. I'm trying to work in different sections of the page so that I can allow all those little petals to dry before I do the one next to it. But I have no patience. That's probably why I'm not a watercolor artist. Ultimately, I'm a mixed media and collage artist because acrylic paints and acrylic mediums dry quickly. Watercolor needs a watercolor paper, which is an absorbent paper, and then it really needs you to just relax. Let it dry. I don't do that. I never do that. It's terrible. So I'm getting bleed as I'm trying to paint the flowers. And you know I like crisp illustration lines, right? I don't like this bleedy thing. I like it when the colors bleed together within the space, like on the leaves. I appreciate that. But when I'm trying to get this petal and this petal to be separate and to look separate, and I'm getting this crazy interaction, it just makes me annoyed. So you can see right there where I accidentally dropped a bit of water on that top leaf and how it bloomed. That was just clear water from the brush, and I dropped it on there. But it does end up kind of smoothing out later after I put a little bit more water on it and let it be for a bit. The other color that I am using from the Ken Oliver, I remember now, is called Yellow Ochre. So it's more of a blend of colors which bring it down to kind of a grayish yellow, a darker color. And I'm using that for shadow. I'm also using the bright orange color for some interest on the petals, just trying to give them highlights and shadows and trying to be super watercolory. I'm trying to be the watercolory person. I fail in the end, but that's okay. I made it into my style. Also, I still not leaving any white space, which, yeah, it was super early when I did this. It was like 4:30 in the morning, and I probably wasn't quite awake because I had planned on practicing leaving white space and, making my highlights with the white of the paper. That would have been my big plan, but it didn't happen. So this is really fun though, and I suggest that everyone get out some watercolor paper and whatever sort of water media that you have, whether it's brush markers that are water soluble, whether it's watercolor pencils, gelatos, scribble sticks, or distress crayons, distress ink, or yeah, distress ink. You can just like squish it down onto your pad, get some of the ink out, and use it as a watercolor. I mean, you guys have something. You have something. I know you do, because we all collect all these different things. Even like some of your ink spray. If you just put a couple drops of that onto a palette and pick it up with a watercolor brush, it becomes a watercolor. And that's what we're encouraging in this entire month. I got a little bit of a late start. I will admit. I have other things I wanted to do, and it took me a while to start into the watercolors, but this is what we're encouraging this month and next month, all the month of February. So I would love to see what you're doing with your watercolors. A couple people have told me that they are doing them, and I would like to see your photographs in the group because I'm interested in what you're doing. So if you have powdered pigments, if you have any other thing, just make a little watercolor and share it with the group. We love it when other people share besides us. It can't just be all about us. It's got to be about everyone in the group. And there's over 1,000 people in the group now. So we should be seeing lots of watercolor coming out from lots of people. And don't be afraid. Don't think, oh, mine's not good enough, because that's absolutely not true. That's just stinky thinking. You can show what you're doing because we're all at a different stage and we all have a different style. So please bring us your work, show it in the group, and we will be sure to like it, and everyone else will be sure to like it. Right, everyone? And leave nice comments, and you will feel so much better and you'll want to do it more. And that's the whole idea behind Art Joy of Sharing, is to just take joy in what you're doing, have fun with it, share it, encourage others, encourage everyone else. It's not about competition. It's not about where you are or your skill level or whether or not you think that you're awesome at it. You are. You're all awesome. So just do it. Just share. I haven't seen a lot of sharing going on about the watercolors. Okay, so this is where the illustration line can come in, because I can't help myself. I have a set of graphite crayons. These are from Lyra, and they're different hardnesses. This one is the 6B crayon, and they're water soluble. They're just graphite in a crayon, and so I can go put that where I want it and then blend it out. And I'm using a water tank brush to blend it out. Trying to keep my fancy, expensive brushes for just watercolor. I guess graphite would technically be a water-soluble media, but I don't know. You can always use your water tank brushes. They have all kinds of nice water inside, and they squeeze out, and yeah, it works great. Then, yeah, I had to add back in white because I just like it. So I got my Posca pen and I pressed it down onto the palette until I had a little puddle. This, of course, is a fluid acrylic paint, so it's very opaque, and I can add highlights and dots and little interest back in where I did not leave white like I should have. It just makes me happy. Posca makes me happy. Whether you use it as a marker or if you use it this way, it just makes me happy. It's water soluble when it's wet because it bleeds out when it's wet. Now, something interesting about Brushos and Ken Oliver pigment also is that it's extremely intense. You cannot cover it up. You could gesso over it, it's still going to bleed through. It's kind of like the Dilutions ink sprays that came out several years ago. No matter what you try to put over the top of it, it bleeds through. And so these bits that seem very white when I put them on there, by the time the piece dried and I took photographs of it, they weren't nearly as intense of a bright color because that pigment bleeds through. But it's still lighter. It'll just be a lighter yellow instead of a bright white. So, something to remember about these powdered pigments. Intense little beasties. Someone reminded me of a thing that I had done before in the past where I had sprayed Dilutions over the top of black gesso and then went over it with white. I want to do that again, and I bet I could do that with Brushos and Ken Oliver pigments. It would do the same thing. Pretty sure. Pretty sure it would. I'm going to have to experiment. I have so many things I want to do. So many. So my last little thing that I did on this one is to add the word sunflower. I like a combination of graphic letters and a washy watercolor. I think that the contrast between them is cool. I just like it. So I decided to just write that word on there with some black Posca pen and then highlight it with the white Posca pen. And that was the last thing I did on this watercolor workout page. I don't have any more sketches now, so I'm going to have to do some more sketching, and then you'll see more pages coming out. Maybe I'll actually include the sketching in the video. I'm not sure. I'd just done a bunch of sketches, and then you've been seeing me watercolor them. I had them already done, but now all the rest of the pages are blank, 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 blank. So I have to do something about that. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please remember to give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment or a question below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on those notification bells. Ring-a-ling-a-ling. You can share this on Pinterest. I actually have a watercolor workout Pinterest board for myself, so I've been trying to pin them in there. So that's it for me. Here comes your close-ups. Bye-bye.